the most powerful warriors in history, never had to raise a sword. They didn't need to, because they had discovered something far more dangerous than any weapon ever forged. They had mastered themselves. Stay with me for the next few minutes, because what you're about to hear could completely change how you respond to every enemy, every rival, every person who's ever tried to break you. The channel where ancient philosophy meets the battles of modern life. If you're new here, welcome. You found this channel for a reason, and if you've been here before, you already know that what we talk about here isn't theory, it's armor. Now, let's talk about enemies. We all have them. Maybe it's a co-worker who takes credit for your work. Maybe it's a person from your past who betrayed your trust. Maybe it's someone who spread lies about you, who laughed at your failures, who tried to dim your light. And if you're being honest right now, because somewhere in the back of your mind, you want them to suffer, you want justice, you want to win. I understand that completely. But here's what the Stoics understood 2,000 years ago, and what most people today still haven't figured out. Fighting your enemy on their terms is how you lose. Today we're going to talk about 7 ways, rooted in Stoic philosophy, to destroy your enemy without ever throwing a single punch, without stooping to their level, without losing a single ounce of your dignity. And by the end of this video, you're going to see that the greatest revenge isn't what you do to them. It's what you become without them. Let's begin. Way number 1, master your mind, master the battlefield. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, commander of armies, and one of the greatest Stoic philosophers who ever lived, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Think about what that means for a second. Most people, when they have an enemy, spend enormous amounts of energy thinking about that person, replaying conversations, imagining arguments, rehearsing what they should have said, what they will say next time. And meanwhile, that enemy, they're sleeping just fine. This is the first trap your enemy sets for you, and most people walk right into it. Every second you spend consumed by hatred, anger, and resentment is a second they have won without doing anything, without even being in the room. The Stoics called this giving away your hegemonikon, your ruling faculty, your mind, your inner command center. When you react emotionally, when you lose sleep, when you obsess, you have handed your most powerful weapon directly to your opponent. So here's the first way to destroy your enemy. Take back your mind. Epictetus, a former slave who became one of history's most celebrated philosophers, taught that the only true freedom is the freedom of your own thinking. His master literally tortured him, and yet Epictetus remained unbroken, because no one could reach inside his mind. Now think about your enemy. What are they doing right now? Whatever it is, they are not winning inside your mind unless you let them. Practical Stoic exercise. The next time you feel rage or obsession rising around your enemy, pause. Name it. Say to yourself, this reaction is a choice, and I choose differently. That pause, that space between stimulus and response, is where your power lives. Your enemy cannot destroy what they cannot reach. Master your mind first. Everything else follows. Way number 2, use silence as your deadliest weapon. Let me ask you something. When someone attacks you, publicly, personally, professionally, what's the instinct? To respond, to defend yourself, to prove them wrong, to match their energy. And I'll tell you exactly what happens when you do that. You validate them. You elevate them. You make them matter. The Stoics had a concept called strategic withdrawal. It wasn't cowardice. It was calculation. Zeno of Citium, the founder of Stoicism, was once publicly insulted at a banquet by a man trying to humiliate him. Everyone waited to see what Zeno would do. He said nothing. He simply continued eating, calmly, completely unbothered. Later, someone asked him, "Why didn't you respond?" And Zeno said, "Because a fool deserves no audience." Think about how powerful that is. When you respond to every insult, every provocation, every petty attack, you are showing your enemy exactly where your buttons are. You are giving them a map to your vulnerabilities. But when you respond with silence, with calm, with indifference, you become unreadable, unapproachable. and to your enemy you become terrifying. Because silence, to a person who craves your reaction, is the ultimate punishment. They attacked you to feel powerful, to get a rise out of you, to watch you squirm. Your silence robs them of all of it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change. But if none can do so, what is the point of reaction?" The most elite response to provocation is often no response at all. Now, I want to be clear. Silence doesn't mean weakness. It doesn't mean you're accepting what they did. It means you are choosing where your energy goes. And it's not going towards someone who hasn't earned it. Your silence isn't emptiness. It's strategy. Use it. Way number 3, become so successful that revenge becomes irrelevant. Now we get to one of the most satisfying of all 7, and the one that most people miss entirely. The Stoics believed deeply in something they called eudaimonia, human flourishing, becoming the absolute best version of yourself. Not for applause, not for revenge, but because excellence is its own reward. But here's the beautiful side effect. Nothing destroys an enemy more completely than your visible, undeniable success. Think about it. The person who doubted you, who laughed at your dreams, who whispered behind your back that you would never make it, what hurts them more? You screaming at them? Exposing them? Getting into public arguments? Or you becoming exactly what they said you couldn't be? There's an old saying, often misattributed but deeply Stoic in spirit. The best revenge is a life well lived. The Stoics didn't frame it as revenge. Exactly, because the truly wise person doesn't need revenge. But they understood that relentless self-improvement is the most powerful response to those who tried to stop you. When Seneca was exiled from Rome, humiliated, stripped of status, he didn't plot vengeance. He wrote, he studied, he grew. And when he returned, he was more powerful and more respected than ever before. When Marcus Aurelius faced enemies at the borders of his empire and enemies within his own court, advisers who conspired against him, he didn't engage in political warfare. He governed better. He led harder. He served more completely. His excellence was his answer. Here is the Stoic challenge I want to give you right now. Instead of spending one more hour thinking about your enemy, spend that hour investing in yourself. Read the book. Start the project. Build the skill. Make the phone call you've been putting off. Every time you choose growth over grievance, you take one more step away from them and one more step toward the person they were afraid you'd become. And trust me, there is no sweeter sound in the world than the silence of someone who doubted you. Watching you succeed, let that fuel you. Way number 4, refuse to become what you hate. This one is the hardest, and I'll be honest with you, it's the one most people fail. Because when someone hurts you badly enough, there is a pull, a deep, almost gravitational pull, to hurt them back in exactly the same way. If they lied about you, you want to lie about them. If they betrayed you, you want to expose every secret they ever trusted you with. If they played dirty, you want to get dirty too. And in the short term, it might even feel good. But here's what the Stoics saw with terrifying clarity. The moment you become what you hate, your enemy has won their greatest victory. They didn't just hurt you. They changed you. They reached inside you and rewired something. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "The best revenge is to not be like your enemy." Read that again. The best revenge is to not be like your enemy. Not to beat them. Not to expose them. Not to make them pay, but to refuse, completely and consciously, to become them. I want to tell you a story. There was a young Roman soldier under Marcus Aurelius, not historical record, but a parable that captures the principle perfectly. This soldier had a commander who publicly humiliated him in front of his fellow troops, accused him falsely of cowardice, had him stripped of honors he had legitimately earned. The soldier had two choices. He could plot against the commander, spread rumors, sabotage him in the field, or he could continue being the soldier he knew himself to be. He chose the second path. He fought harder. He served with more honor. He became so visibly courageous that even the commander's allies began to distance themselves from the lie. In time, the truth emerged, and the commander's own character, his pettiness, his insecurity, His dishonesty became undeniable to everyone around him. The soldier didn't have to do anything. His character was the weapon. This is Stoic combat at its highest level. You don't fight people with their own weapons. You fight them with the one thing they can never copy, your integrity. Because character is built slowly over years, in thousands of small decisions. And it cannot be faked. Not forever. Your enemy can imitate your words. They can steal your ideas. They can take credit for your work. But they cannot steal who you are. Guard that above everything else. Way number 5. Understand them better than they understand themselves. Sun Tzu said, "Know your enemy and know yourself, and you will not be imperiled in 100 battles." Now, Sun Tzu wasn't a Stoic, but this principle cuts right to the heart of Stoic thought. The Stoics were obsessed with understanding human nature, including the worst parts of it. Not to excuse bad behavior, not to rationalize cruelty, but to be prepared. And here is something that most people who have enemies completely miss. Your enemy is not a monster. They are a frightened, wounded, limited human being, acting from their pain, their insecurity and their fear. I know that's hard to hear when someone has genuinely hurt you. But stay with me. Marcus Aurelius would often pause before responding to adversaries and ask himself, what is driving this person? What fear is underneath this aggression? What wound is behind this behavior? Not to feel sorry for them, not to excuse them, but to understand the pattern, to see the move before it's made. Because here's the truth about almost every enemy you'll ever have. They are predictable. The colleague who undermines you is afraid you'll outshine them. The family member who criticizes you is afraid of their own failures. The friend who betrayed you was acting from their own deep insecurity. When you understand why people do what they do, you stop being shocked by it. And when you stop being shocked, you stop being reactive. And when you stop being reactive, you become strategic. The Stoic practice here is called negative visualization applied outward. Instead of being caught off guard when people disappoint you, you prepare yourself mentally. You say, people are capable of this. This is human nature at its weakest expression. I will not be surprised, and I will not be destroyed by what I already understand. Epictetus taught, seek not that the things which happen should happen as you wish, but wish the things which happen to be as they are, and you will have a tranquil flow of life. Your enemy will behave like your enemy. That is their nature. Your job is not to change them. Your job is to understand them deeply enough that they can never catch you completely off guard. Know the game, know the players, and then play better. Way number 6, forgive them, not for their sake, but for yours. I know what you're thinking. Forgiveness? That's what you're calling destroying my enemy? Stick with me, because this might be the most counterintuitive and most powerful idea in this entire video. And if you've been watching until this point, you already know. The Stoics were never about passive suffering. They were about active mastery. So let me reframe forgiveness for you, the Stoic way. Forgiveness is not saying what they did was okay, reconciling with someone who hurt you, forgetting what happened, making yourself vulnerable again. Stoic forgiveness is something completely different. It is the act of cutting the chain. Think of resentment as a chain. Every time you replay that hurt, rehearse that anger, dwell on what they did, you are chained to that person. You are dragging them everywhere with you, into your sleep, into your work, into your relationships, into your best moments. Resentment is a prison that you build for your enemy, and then live in yourself. Seneca wrote, resentment is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. The Stoics understood that carrying hatred is a form of self-harm. It corrupts the very mind and soul you've worked so hard to master. To forgive, in the Stoic sense, is simply to release the charge. To look at what happened, acknowledge it fully, and then consciously choose not to carry it forward. Not because they deserve your peace. Because you deserve your peace. There's someone watching this right now who has been carrying something heavy for a very long time. Years maybe. And the person who did it to you, they've moved on. They're living their life. They're not losing sleep. But you are. And every day you carry that. Every day you feed that fire. They are winning a battle they don't even know is being fought. The most radical act of power you can commit against someone who hurt you is to heal fully, completely, without apology. Not for them, for yourself. That is Stoic forgiveness. And it is, without question, the most devastating thing you can do to someone who wanted to break you, because it means they failed. They tried to leave a wound that never heals, and you healed it anyway. That is your ultimate victory. Way number 7. Become indifferent to their existence. We've come to the final and most devastating of all 7 ways. Not hatred, not anger, not even forgiveness exactly. Indifference. The Stoics considered apatheia, freedom from violent passions, unshakable calm, to be the highest human achievement. Not the cold indifference of someone who has given up, but the serene, powerful indifference of someone who has risen above. Think about what truly bothers an enemy more than anything else. Not your anger. They can work with that. They can feed off it. Not even your success, though that stings. What truly breaks an enemy is when they realize you don't think about them at all. When they post something to provoke you, and you don't even see it. When they spread a rumor, and it doesn't reach you because you've moved so far beyond that world. When you run into them, and you greet them warmly, not because you've forgotten, not because you've forgiven in the everyday sense, but because they simply don't have the power to disturb your peace anymore. That is the look on a person's face that haunts every enemy. The realization that you have become unreachable. Marcus Aurelius governed the most powerful empire in the known world. He had enemies who tried to assassinate him, advisors who conspired against him, generals who questioned him. And in his private journal, the Meditations, a book he never intended for anyone to read, he wrote not about revenge, not about punishment. He wrote about his own soul, about virtue, about duty, about the relentless pursuit of being better today than he was yesterday. His enemies were a footnote. His inner world was the story. That is what we're building toward. A life so rich, so purposeful, so deeply rooted in your own values that the people who tried to harm you simply don't fit in the frame anymore. Not because you hate them, not because you've crushed them, but because you've outgrown them. Every enemy you've ever had wanted to be significant to you, wanted to matter, wanted to take up space in your mind, your heart, your story. The final act of Stoic mastery is to deny them that significance, not with drama, not with a declaration, just by living so fully and so freely that there simply isn't room for them anymore. That is the ultimate destruction without a single blow. Let's bring it all together. The 7 ways to destroy your enemy without fighting. Through the lens of Stoic wisdom. 1. Master your mind. Take back your attention. Refuse to hand your inner world to anyone who hasn't earned it. 2. Use silence as your weapon. Your lack of reaction is the most powerful response you can give. 3. Become so successful that revenge becomes irrelevant. Let your growth be your answer. 4. Refuse to become what you hate. Your character is your strongest weapon. Guard it absolutely. 5. Understand your enemy better than they understand themselves. See the pattern. Anticipate the move. Never be caught off guard. 6. Forgive. Not for them, but for yourself. Cut the chain. Claim your peace. Deny them the wound they wanted to leave. 7. Become indifferent to their existence. Rise so far that there's no room in your life for their relevance. The ancient Stoics didn't promise an easy life. They promised something better. A free life. Free from being controlled by circumstance. Free from being defined by enemies. Free from the tyranny of hatred, bitterness, and revenge. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Your enemies, every one of them, have given you something. A reason to grow stronger, a test of your character, a chance to discover what you're truly made of. Use it. Before you go, I want to ask you something. Which of these 7 resonated with you the most? Is it the silence, the success, or maybe the forgiveness? Drop it in the comments below. Tell me your story. I read every single one, and your experiences make this community one of the most thoughtful places on this platform. If this video gave you something, a new perspective, a moment of clarity, even just a breath of calm in a complicated day, then do me a favor. Hit the like button. It takes 2 seconds and it means more than you know. Share this video with someone who's going through a battle right now. Not because you want to lecture them, but because you care enough to hand them something that might help. And if you haven't subscribed to Wisdom of the Stoics yet, now is the time. Every week, we bring you the ancient strategies that are more relevant today than they've ever been. You are not your circumstances. You are not your enemies. You are not what they said about you, what they did to you, or what they tried to take from you. You are the one who decides how this story ends. And if you're watching this right now, still standing, still fighting, still seeking wisdom, then trust me, you're going to be just fine. I'll see you in the next one.